You feel everything. The tension in a room before anyone speaks. The sorrow hiding behind a smile. The rage simmering beneath politeness. The unspoken words that hang in the air like ghosts waiting to be acknowledged. You walk into a space and within moments, you know. You know who's hurting, who's pretending, who needs something they can't name. And you've spent your entire life believing this sensitivity is a curse, something fundamentally wrong with you, a burden you were born to carry. But what if I told you that your empathy was not a gift you were born with, but a wound you developed to survive? What if the very thing that makes you feel so deeply that exhausts you, that leaves you depleted and confused about where you end and others begin, what if that was not your natural state, but an adaptation, a psychic structure built in childhood to navigate an unstable world? Let me take you back to the very beginning, back to the first universe you ever knew, your mother, not the woman herself, though she played a role. I'm speaking of something deeper, the mother as archetype, the mother as the first world, the first experience of love, safety, nourishment, or the absence of these things. She was your sun, your moon, your entire cosmos. And the quality of that universe shaped everything that came after. When that universe is predictable, when the mother's presence is consistent, when her love feels unconditional, the child develops what we call secure attachment. The child learns the world is safe. I am worthy. Love is reliable. I can express myself without fear of abandonment. But when that universe is unstable, something very different happens. When the mother is sometimes warm and sometimes cold. When her love feels conditional. When her moods shift like weather patterns the child cannot predict. When she is physically present but emotionally absent. When she loves you for what you do, but not for who you are. The child cannot simply accept this chaos. Survival depends on making sense of it. And so the child becomes hypervigilant, reading every micro-expression, sensing every emotional shift, scanning constantly for signs of danger, for hints of what's coming next. The child develops radar. This is where the empath is born. Not in joy, but in necessity. Not as a gift, but as a survival mechanism. You learn to feel the room before the room could hurt you. You learn to sense your mother's emotional state so you could adjust yourself accordingly. Become smaller when she needed space. Become cheerful when she needed lightness. Become invisible when her rage was rising. You learn to read others before you learn to read yourself. And here's what the depth psychology tradition understands so profoundly. When this happens, when a child must constantly attune to the mother's emotional state for survival, something in the psyche remains forever porous. The boundaries that should form between self and other never fully develop. The inner mother archetype, which should become a stable, nourishing presence in the unconscious, instead remains fractured, unreliable, demanding. What was adaptive in childhood becomes the pattern of a lifetime. You grow up. You leave home. You build a life. But still you feel everything. Still you absorb the emotions of everyone around you as if they were your own. Still you walk into a room and become a sponge soaking up pain, tension, unexpressed grief, hidden anger. And you're exhausted. Because you're not just living your life. You're living everyone's life. You're carrying emotions that don't belong to you. You're trying to manage feelings that were never yours to manage. This is the mother wound in the empath, and it runs deeper than you know. But here's the truth I want you to hold as we journey together through this exploration. This is not about blaming your mother. She too was shaped by forces beyond her control. She too carried wounds from her own childhood. The mother wound is not personal. It is archetypal. It is a pattern that repeats across generations until someone becomes conscious enough to break it, and that someone could be you. The journey ahead is not about transcending your sensitivity. It's not about becoming less empathic or building walls around your heart. It's about transformation, from unconscious absorption to conscious discernment. From being overwhelmed by others' emotions to becoming a sovereign seer, from drowning in the waters of feeling to learning how to swim, your empathy is real. Your perception is accurate. You do see what others miss. But right now you're seeing from woundedness. And there's another way. A way to keep the gift while healing the wound. A way to feel deeply without losing yourself. A way to love fully while remaining whole. Before we go deeper, if this resonates with something true in your soul, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows this work to reach others who are searching for these answers, others who have felt alone in their sensitivity, others who are ready to transform their deepest wounds into their greatest wisdom. Now let's descend together into the depths of how the mother wound creates the empath. To understand how the mother wound shapes the empath, we must first understand what happens in the psyche of a child whose first world was unstable. A child comes into this world completely dependent, not just physically, but psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. The infant has no sense of where they end, and the mother begins. There is only oneness merger, what depth psychology calls participation mystique. The mother is not separate. She is everything. And in healthy development, this merger slowly, gently gives way to separation. The child begins to recognize, I am here and you are there. I have my feelings and you have yours. The ego begins to form. Boundaries begin to develop. The child internalizes a good enough mother, a stable inner presence that says, you are safe, you are loved. You can explore the world and I will be here when you return. But when the mother cannot provide this consistency, when her presence is unreliable, when her emotional state is chaotic, the child's development takes a different path. The child cannot afford to separate. Because separation means losing track of the mother's emotional state. And losing track means danger. It means not knowing when love will appear or disappear, not knowing when rage might erupt, not knowing what version of mother will greet them. So the child stays merged. The child keeps the radar on, always scanning, always sensing, always adjusting. This is the birth of hypervigilance. And it is from this hypervigilance that the empath's sensitivity emerges. Let me describe 4 patterns of maternal wounding that create this empathic structure. You may recognize yourself in one, or you may see elements of several. The first is the emotionally absent mother. She is physically present, but emotionally unavailable. Perhaps she is depressed. Perhaps she is overwhelmed by her own life. Perhaps she simply never learned how to attune to a child's inner world. The child reaches for connection and finds emptiness. The child expresses emotion and receives a blank stare or a dismissal. This child learns to become invisible, to not need, to not demand. But beneath that adaptation, the child is desperately scanning for any sign of emotional life in the mother, any flicker of feeling they might be able to respond to anything that might bring connection. The child becomes what the family needs them to be, the easy one, the one who doesn't make waves, the one who senses what's required and provides it without being asked. They become the family's emotional barometer, reading the atmosphere, adjusting themselves to maintain equilibrium. In adulthood, this becomes the empath who feels responsible for everyone's happiness, who is terrified of being too much, too needy, too demanding, who gives and gives and gives, hoping that if they can just sense what others need and provide it, they will finally be seen. The second pattern is the engulfing or narcissistic mother. This mother does not see the child as a separate being with their own inner world. The child exists only as an extension of the mother's needs, desires, and emotions. The mother may be intrusive, controlling, unable to allow the child any privacy or autonomy. Or she may use the child as her emotional confidant, her therapist, her purpose. There are no boundaries between self and mother, because the mother does not allow them. The child's job is not to have their own feelings, but to manage the mother's feelings, to become what she needs, to reflect back to her what she wants to see. This child never learns where they end, and others begin because they were never allowed to have an end. They were always porous, always available, always responsible for someone else's emotional state. In adulthood, this becomes the empath who cannot say no, who feels others' emotions so intensely they lose track of their own, who becomes enmeshed in every relationship, taking on others' problems as if they were their own, who exhausts themselves trying to fix, heal, and save everyone around them. The third pattern is the critical or conditional mother. Her love is given only when the child performs, achieves, behaves, or suppresses their true self. The child learns that who they naturally are is not acceptable, that love must be earned through perfection, through good behavior, through becoming what the mother wants rather than what they are. This child develops a hyper-awareness of judgment and disapproval. They can sense the slightest shift in tone, the smallest hint of disappointment. They become expert readers of what others expect, what others want, what will earn approval, and what will bring rejection. In adulthood, this becomes the empath who is constantly scanning others for signs of judgment, who feels criticism even when none is spoken, who reads every interaction through the lens of, "Am I enough? Am I doing this right? Am I meeting your expectations?" The perfectionist empath, exhausted from trying to sense and meet everyone's standards. The fourth pattern is the overwhelmed or volatile mother. She may be dealing with her own trauma, her own mental health struggles, her own inability to regulate her emotions. Her moods are unpredictable. One moment she is loving, the next she is raging. The child never knows what they're going to get. This child learns to become the parent's emotional caretaker. They learn to manage big emotions, to soothe, to calm, to keep peace. They become expert at sensing when a storm is coming and trying to prevent it. They absorb their mother's emotional chaos, taking it into their own small body, believing that if they can just contain it, everyone will be safe. In adulthood, this becomes the empath who is drawn to emotionally unstable people, who feels compelled to fix and heal everyone, who believes their purpose is to absorb others' pain, who cannot distinguish between witnessing someone's struggle and becoming responsible for solving it. Do you see yourself in these patterns? Do you recognize the child you were adapting to survive, developing a sensitivity that was not a choice, but a necessity? This is the psychic mechanism at work. The child who must constantly attune to the mother's emotional state cannot develop proper ego boundaries. The sense of, "I am here and you are there," never fully forms. Instead, there is a permeability, an openness, a merging. In depth psychology, we understand this as an interrupted process of individuation. The self cannot emerge because the self was never given space to exist. The child's psyche organized itself entirely around the mother's needs, the mother's emotions, the mother's stability or lack thereof. And here's what makes this so painful in adulthood. You carry an unconscious belief, a belief so deep you may not even know it's there. The belief is this: if I can sense it, I can control it. If I can feel it, I can fix it. If I can absorb it, I can make it safe. This belief made sense when you were a child. It was your survival strategy. But now it's a prison, because you cannot control others' emotions. You cannot fix others' pain. You cannot absorb their suffering and make it disappear. But you keep trying. Because the child in you still believes that your hypervigilance, your sensitivity, your empathy is what keeps you safe, is what makes you valuable, is what earns you love. And here's the paradox, the gift curse that every wounded empath must face. Your sensitivity is real. Your perception is accurate. You do see what others cannot see. You do sense what remains hidden. you do perceive the emotional undercurrents that most people miss entirely. This is not delusion. This is not imagining things. Your empathic ability is genuine. But it's perception born from trauma, not from wholeness. It's sight developed through pain, not through natural unfolding. And there's a profound difference between these two. Empathy in its healthy form is conscious. It is boundaried compassion. It is the ability to perceive another's inner world while remaining firmly rooted in your own. It is feeling with someone, not becoming them. It is witnessing their pain without absorbing it into your body. But what most wounded empaths experience is not empathy. It's emotional absorption. It's unconscious merging. It's survival-based hypervigilance that never turned off even when the danger passed. The task ahead, the journey of healing and transformation, is learning to distinguish between these two. Learning to keep the genuine gift of perception while releasing the compulsive need to merge, fix, and absorb. This is what the intersection of Carl Jung empath and personal development reveals, that our deepest wounds, when brought into consciousness, become the foundation of our greatest gifts. That the sensitivity forced upon us in childhood can be transformed into genuine wisdom in adulthood. That the empath's journey is not about becoming less sensitive, but about becoming consciously sensitive, discerning, sovereign. But to get there, we must go deeper. We must descend into the archetypal realm, where the mother wound lives not just as personal history, but as a universal pattern in the human psyche. There is a mother who lives in your psyche. She is not the woman who gave birth to you, though she may wear her face. She is older than your personal history, older than your family line. She is the mother archetype, one of the most powerful forces in the human unconscious. Every culture, every mythology, every sacred tradition has known her. She appears as Isis and Demeter, as Kali and Mary, as the Earth Mother and the Dark Goddess. She is creation and destruction, nourishment and devouring, comfort and terror. She is the great container of life, and she is the one who takes life back into her depths. The mother archetype has two faces: the nourishing mother who feeds, protects, nurtures, and affirms, and the terrible mother who devours, possesses, suffocates, and destroys. These are not separate mothers. They are two aspects of the same archetypal force. In healthy development, the child experiences primarily the nourishing face. Yes, there are moments of frustration, moments when the mother cannot meet every need immediately. But overall, the child internalizes a good mother, a benevolent inner presence that says, "You are safe, you are loved, the world is basically friendly." But when the personal mother fails significantly or consistently, when she cannot embody the nourishing aspect of the archetype, something else happens. The inner mother becomes distorted. She takes on primarily the terrible face, and the child carries within them not a sense of safety, but a sense of danger. Not an inner nurturing presence, but an inner devouring presence. For the wounded empath, this manifests in a particular way. The inner mother becomes both starving and devouring. There is a starving inner child who never received enough, who is perpetually hungry for the love that was absent or inconsistent. And there is a devouring inner mother who demands endless sacrifice, who says, "You must give everything, feel everything, carry everything, or you will be abandoned again." Do you feel this inside yourself? The insatiable hunger for connection, coupled with the demand that you constantly pour yourself out for others. This is the distorted mother complex at work. In dreams, this often appears as powerful images. You might dream of being chased by a threatening female figure, or drowning in water, unable to find solid ground, or losing yourself in crowds, your identity dissolving into the mass, or being back in your childhood home but unable to find your way out. These are not random images. They are the psyche showing you the mother wound, the loss of boundaries, the fear of being consumed. Now let me speak to something that empaths rarely want to face: the shadow. The shadow is everything you had to reject about yourself to survive. Everything that wasn't acceptable in your family system. Everything that threatened your connection to the mother and therefore your survival. For the empath, the shadow contains your rage at being used, your resentment at one-sided relationships, your desire to be selfish, to say no, to be unavailable, your wish to be cold, to not care, to let others deal with their own problems, your need to receive rather than endlessly give. These parts of you were exiled because you learned consciously or unconsciously that having boundaries meant being abandoned, that expressing anger meant losing love, that being unavailable meant being unworthy. So you repressed these aspects. You pushed them into the unconscious. And they remain there, festering in the dark, occasionally erupting in ways that confuse and shame you. You might find yourself suddenly cold and withdrawn after months of overgiving. Or passive-aggressive when you cannot express anger directly, or drawn to people who are selfish and unavailable because they express the shadow you cannot own in yourself. This is what happens when the shadow remains unconscious. It either possesses you in moments when your defenses are down, or it gets projected onto others, or it turns inward and becomes depression, anxiety, self-sabotage. Integration begins when you can acknowledge, I am angry. I have been used. I resent always being the one who gives. And I participated in this. I chose relationships where I could play out my familiar role. I unconsciously sought people who would need me because being needed felt like being loved. This is not self-blame. This is seeing the full truth. You were wounded as a child. That was not your fault. But as an adult, you have unconsciously repeated the pattern. And that is your responsibility to change. The empath's shadow also contains what depth psychology calls the wounded healer complex. You believe your worth comes from your ability to heal others. You believe your purpose is to absorb pain. You believe love means sacrifice. And beneath this noble-seeming belief is something darker: the unconscious need to be needed. The fear that if you are not useful, you are nothing. This is why you keep attracting people who are broken, unstable, or emotionally unavailable. Not because you are cursed, but because some part of you needs to replay the original wound. The child in you is still trying to fix the mother, to heal her, to be enough for her. And so you unconsciously choose partners and friends who give you the opportunity to try again. But here's the truth: you cannot heal your mother through other people. You cannot earn the love you didn't receive by loving others perfectly. The wound can only be healed in one place, within your own psyche, in relationship with yourself. Let's speak now about attachment patterns, because they are intimately connected to how the mother wound manifests in the empath. If you developed anxious attachment, you live in constant fear of abandonment. You hyper-monitor others' emotional states, looking for signs of withdrawal or rejection. You give everything to prevent others from leaving. Your empathy becomes a tool of survival. I will feel what you need before you know you need it. I will never burden you with my needs. I will make myself indispensable so you won't leave me. This is the empath who cannot rest, who is always scanning, always giving, always terrified that they are too much or not enough. If you developed avoidant attachment, you became what I call the detached empath. You feel everything, but you intellectualize it. You understand others deeply, but you maintain distance. You use your empathy to stay safe. I can see into your soul, but I won't let you see into mine. I can understand your pain, but I won't let it touch me. This is the empath who appears cold or aloof, who uses their perception to maintain control rather than create connection. If you developed disorganized attachment, you oscillate between these extremes. You are the flooded empath. Sometimes you merge completely, drowning in others' emotions, losing all sense of yourself. Other times you withdraw completely, going cold, shutting down, unable to feel anything. You are both terrified of abandonment and terrified of engulfment. You desperately need connection and desperately fear it. These patterns play out in every relationship. And at the center of all of them is the mother complex, the original template of love and safety, or the lack thereof. When you enter a romantic relationship, you unconsciously seek the mother. If your mother was withholding, you are drawn to emotionally unavailable partners. You believe that if you can just love them enough, sense their needs deeply enough, give enough, you will finally break through their walls. But what you're really trying to do is get the mother to finally love you. If your mother was engulfing, you may be drawn to needy partners who demand everything from you. It feels familiar. It feels like love. But what you're really doing is replaying the dynamic where you had no boundaries, no self, only the duty to meet someone else's needs. Your friendships become one-sided caretaking relationships. You are always the one listening, helping, supporting. And when you need support, no one seems available. But part of you chose this because receiving feels uncomfortable, because having needs feels dangerous, because deep down the wounded child in you believes that love equals giving, not receiving. Your work becomes a place to prove your worth through overfunctioning. You take on more than your share. You sense what needs to be done before anyone asks. You make yourself invaluable through your sensitivity to the needs of the organization, the team, the clients. And you burn out again and again, wondering why your empathy feels like a curse. The pattern repeats until consciousness breaks it. Until you wake up inside the dream and realize, I am not living my life. I am living out an ancient pattern. I am not loving freely. I am trying to resolve a wound that cannot be resolved through others. Now I must speak to something even larger. Because the mother wound is not merely personal. It is collective. It is cultural. It is woven into the fabric of our civilization. For thousands of years, we have rejected the feminine. We have exiled intuition and elevated logic. We have suppressed emotion and worshipped control. We have desecrated the sacred body and enshrined the rational mind. We have, as a species, created a massive mother wound. The empaths among us carry this collective wound. You feel not only your own pain, but the pain of generations. The grief of all who were unloved, unseen, unheard. The rage of all who were silenced. The sorrow of all who had to hide their true selves to survive. This is why your sensitivity sometimes feels overwhelming. You're not just feeling your own feelings. You are a vessel for the collective unconscious, for the repressed pain of the culture itself. But here's what the path of Carl Jung, empath, and personal development teaches us. Those who carry collective wounds can also become collective healers. When you heal your personal mother wound, you contribute to the healing of the ancestral line. When you learn to hold your sensitivity consciously, you model a new way of being for the culture. When you transform from wounded empath to sovereign seer, you become what the world desperately needs. Someone who can feel deeply and think clearly, who can love fully and maintain boundaries, who can witness suffering without becoming consumed by it. The wounded healer is not someone who heals from woundedness. The wounded healer is someone who has descended into their wound, faced it, integrated it, and emerged transformed. And from that place of wholeness, they can hold space for others' transformation. But we're not there yet. First, you must make the descent. First, you must turn toward the wound you have been running from your entire life. First, you must face the pain you have been so busy managing in others that you never allowed yourself to fully feel. This is the work of integration. And it is to this work that we now turn. Healing does not begin by transcending the wound. It begins by entering it. Everything in you wants to avoid this. You have spent your entire life focused outward, feeling into others, managing their emotional states, carrying their pain. You have made yourself an expert in everyone else's inner world precisely to avoid your own. But the transformation you seek, the freedom from endless absorption, the ability to feel without drowning, the capacity to love without losing yourself. All of this lies on the other side of turning inward. So let me guide you through this descent, not as something to rush through or get over, but as a sacred journey into the underworld of your own psyche, where the wounded child still waits. Close your eyes for a moment, or soften your gaze, and imagine yourself walking down a spiral staircase. It leads down, down, down into the depths of your inner world. At the bottom, there is a room you have never wanted to enter. And in that room, there is a child. The child you were. The one who learned that love meant sensing others' needs before your own. The one who learned that safety meant making yourself small. The one who learned that connection meant losing yourself. This child is not a metaphor. This child is a living presence in your psyche, frozen in time, still waiting for what never came. Can you sit with this child? Can you ask them what they needed that they never received? Maybe they needed to be held without having to perform. Maybe they needed someone to notice their pain without them having to manage everyone else's first. Maybe they needed permission to be angry, to be selfish, to have needs. Maybe they needed to know that their existence alone was enough, that they didn't have to earn love through their sensitivity to others. Whatever arises, let it come. This is the grief that must be felt. Not analyzed, not understood intellectually, felt in the body, cried through the tears, spoken through the voice that was silenced. The wound says, I was never truly seen. I was used. I was needed for what I could provide, not loved for who I was. Let yourself feel this, because until you feel it, you will keep trying to get others to heal it. You will keep choosing relationships that replay the pattern, hoping this time will be different. You will keep absorbing others' emotions, hoping that if you can just carry enough pain, someone will finally carry yours. But that someone can only be you. The adult you caring for the child you in the way no one else ever did. This is the beginning of building the inner mother. The one who should have been there, but wasn't. The one you've been searching for in partners, friends, therapists, spiritual teachers. The one who can only be found within. Building the inner mother is not a metaphor. It is actual psychic work. It is creating an inner presence that offers what the outer mother could not. Safety, unconditional positive regard. The permission to be exactly who you are. How do you do this? Through consistent acts of self-mothering. When you feel overwhelmed by others' emotions, you pause. You place your hand on your heart. You feel your own body, your own breath. And you speak to yourself the way a good mother would speak to a child. I'm here. You're safe. You don't have to carry this. Let's take care of you right now. When the old patterns arise, when you find yourself over-functioning in a relationship, absorbing someone's pain, losing track of your own needs, you notice. And you say to yourself, this is the old pattern. The child in me believes I must do this to be loved. But I am not that child anymore. I can choose differently. When shame arises, when the inner critic says you're too much or not enough, when the voice that sounds like your mother's disapproval echoes in your mind, you meet it with compassion. You say, this voice is not the truth. This is the internalized wound speaking. My true self is not defined by this voice. These small acts repeated day after day begin to rewire the psyche. The inner mother becomes stronger. The wounded child begins to feel held. And slowly, the desperate need to seek mothering from others begins to relax. You might notice this in dreams. The harsh female figures begin to soften. You might dream of a wise woman who offers guidance, or a nurturing animal who protects you, or finding a safe home, or being held in warm water. These are signs that the archetypal mother is shifting within you from terrible to nourishing. But building the inner mother is only half the work. You must also learn the art of sacred boundaries. Let me be clear, boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are not rejection. Boundaries are not coldness or lack of compassion. Boundaries are the container that allows your empathy to be a gift rather than a curse. Think of a river. Without banks, the river becomes a flood, destructive and chaotic. With banks, the river flows with power and purpose. Your empathy needs banks. It needs the structure of clear boundaries that give your sensitivity direction. There are 3 types of boundaries every empath must learn. First, emotional boundaries. This is the practice of discerning this feeling is mine and that feeling is yours. When you're in conversation with someone and suddenly feel heavy or anxious, you pause and ask, was I feeling this before I encountered this person? Or did I absorb this from them? This simple question begins to create separation. You start to notice that many of the emotions you experience throughout the day are not actually yours. You picked them up from others, and you can set them down. The practice becomes, I can witness your pain without becoming it. I can feel compassion for your struggle without taking responsibility for solving it. I can hold space for your emotions without absorbing them into my body. This is not cold. This is not uncaring. This is mature empathy. This is the difference between drowning with someone and standing on the shore with a rope. Second, energetic boundaries. This is the practice of maintaining your sense of self even when you're in the presence of strong personalities or intense emotions. Before you enter a situation that you know will be emotionally charged, you take a moment. You feel your feet on the ground. You feel the boundary of your skin. You breathe into your own center. You might visualize a sphere of light around you, not as a wall that keeps everything out, but as a permeable membrane. It lets in what you choose to let in, but nothing enters without your consent. You are no longer a sponge. You are a conscious being who decides what you will receive and what you will release. After intense interactions, you practice energetic hygiene. You might take a shower and imagine washing off any emotions that don't belong to you. Or you might shake your body, literally releasing what you absorbed. Or you might spend time in nature, letting the earth receive what you've been carrying. Third, relational boundaries. This is perhaps the hardest for empaths. This is learning to say, I love you, but I cannot carry this for you. I care about you, but your emotions are not my responsibility. I want to support you, but I cannot fix your life. This brings up the deepest fear. If I'm not useful, if I'm not absorbing pain, if I'm not fixing problems, will anyone love me? And here's where you must face the truth. Some people will leave when you stop overfunctioning. Some relationships existed only because you were willing to carry more than your share. And as painful as this is, it's also liberating. Because the people who remain are the ones who love you for who you are not, for what you can do for them. Real love does not demand that you lose yourself. Real love does not ask you to be endlessly available. Real love wants you whole, not useful. Setting relational boundaries means accepting that you cannot save anyone. You cannot heal anyone. You can witness support care, but you cannot do the work for them. Each person must face their own underworld, and your job is not to go down there with them. Your job is to remain sovereign, to hold the light, to be a mirror for their own wholeness. Now we must speak about the shadow, because integration requires that you reclaim the parts of yourself that you exiled. Do you remember what I said earlier? Your shadow contains your anger, your selfishness, your desire to say no, your wish to be unavailable. These are not enemies. These are parts of your wholeness that were rejected because they threatened your survival as a child. To integrate the shadow, you must dialogue with it. You must give voice to the parts of you that were silenced. In your journal, write from the voice of the one who is angry. What does she want to say? What has she been holding? Write from the voice of the selfish one. What does he want? What needs have been denied? Write from the voice of the cold one who doesn't care. What does she see that you've been refusing to see? As you do this, you may be surprised by what emerges. You may discover a fierce protector who is tired of watching you give everything away. You may find a wise voice that says, "No more. You matter too." This is not about becoming cruel or cold. This is about becoming whole. Because the truth is, you cannot be fully compassionate without accessing your capacity for anger. You cannot truly love without being able to say no. You cannot give from fullness if you never receive. The shadow, when integrated, becomes your strength. The anger becomes healthy aggression, the capacity to protect yourself. The selfishness becomes self-care, the ability to honor your needs. The coldness becomes discernment, the wisdom to know when to engage and when to withdraw. And as you integrate these rejected parts, something remarkable happens. You stop being overwhelmed by your empathy. Because now you have the full range of human capacity available to you. You are not just the sensitive one, the helper, the absorber of pain. You are complex, multifaceted, whole. This brings us to the heart of transformation, shifting from unconscious empathy to conscious empathy, from absorption to discernment. Unconscious empathy says, "I feel your pain as if it's mine, and I must fix it. I cannot tolerate your discomfort, so I will absorb it, solve it, carry it for you." Conscious empathy says, "I perceive your pain clearly. I hold space for it. I witness you in it. But I remain rooted in my own center. I trust that you have the capacity to move through this, and my job is not to rescue you, but to believe in your strength." Do you see the difference? One comes from fear and wounding. The other comes from trust and wholeness. The empath who has done this work of integration becomes what we might call a sovereign seer. You see into the depths of others, yes. You perceive what remains hidden, absolutely. But you are no longer swept away by what you perceive. You are no longer consumed by others' emotions. You are no longer defined by your usefulness to others. You are simply yourself, whole and boundaried, able to love deeply without losing yourself, able to feel fully without drowning. This is the promise of the integration work. Not that you'll stop being sensitive, but that your sensitivity will become a conscious tool rather than an unconscious compulsion, that your empathy will be a gift you choose to offer rather than a burden you're forced to carry. And here, in this integration, is where the wisdom of Carl Jung, empath, and personal development converges. Our wounds, when brought into consciousness, when faced with courage, when held with compassion, become the very source of our power. The empath's sensitivity born from the mother wound can be transformed into the greatest gift, not by denying the wound, but by integrating it, not by transcending the pain, but by alchemizing it. This is the sacred work, and it requires daily practice, consistent presence, and unwavering commitment to your own wholeness. It requires that you finally choose yourself. You are no longer the child who must read the room to stay safe. Let that truth land in your body. You are no longer that child. You are an adult now, an adult who can choose, who can protect that younger self, who can provide what was never given. The transformation we've been speaking of, this journey from wounded empath to sovereign seer, is not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming who you always were, beneath the adaptations, beneath the survival patterns, beneath the wound. It's about reclaiming your original self, the one who existed before you learned that love meant losing yourself, before you learned that safety meant sensing everyone's needs before your own, before you learned that your worth was measured by your usefulness to others. This self is still here beneath everything. It never left. It's been waiting for you to remember, and as you do this work of integration, as you build the inner mother and establish boundaries and reclaim your shadow, a new identity begins to emerge. Not constructed, but revealed. Not performed, but authentic. You begin to notice shifts. Where once you felt everything and it overwhelmed you, now you feel everything, and you can discern what's yours and what's not. You walk into a room, and yes, you still sense the emotional atmosphere, but you don't absorb it. You witness it. You see it clearly, but you remain yourself. Where once you felt compelled to help everyone, to fix every problem, to absorb every pain, now you can choose. You can offer support when it's genuinely yours to give, and you can step back when it's not. And both of these feel aligned, feel right, feel like love rather than compulsion. Where once your worth was tied to being needed, now you know your worth is inherent. You matter because you exist, not because of what you do for others. This knowing, truly integrated, changes everything. Your relationships begin to transform. Because when you stop relating from woundedness, when you stop unconsciously seeking the mother in every connection, when you stop trying to earn love through empathic service, a space opens for real intimacy. You start to attract people who see you, not people who need you, not people who want to use your sensitivity, but people who genuinely want to know you, all of you, not just the helpful parts. And with these people, you can be vulnerable without losing yourself. You can share your needs without shame. You can receive support without feeling like a burden. Because the relationship is reciprocal, not one-sided. Both people are whole, meeting each other from wholeness rather than from woundedness. You also start to release relationships that were built on the old pattern. Some people will resist your boundaries. Some will be confused by your newfound ability to say no. Some will accuse you of being selfish or changing or no longer caring. This is painful, but it's also necessary, because those relationships were sustained by your woundedness. And as you heal, as you become sovereign, those dynamics cannot continue. The people who truly love you will adjust. They will respect your boundaries. They will celebrate your wholeness. And the ones who cannot will fall away, making room for connections that honor who you really are. Your work life transforms too. Your empathy becomes strategic insight rather than a burden. You can read team dynamics, understand unspoken needs, perceive what's blocking progress. But you no longer overfunction. You no longer take on more than your share. You no longer sacrifice yourself to keep systems running. You bring your gifts fully, but from a place of choice and sovereignty. And paradoxically, you become even more effective. Because you're not depleted. Because you're not drowning. Because you can see clearly without being swept away by emotional currents. Your inner world transforms most profoundly. There is peace. Not the peace of numbness or disconnection, but the peace of being at home in yourself. You can rest without guilt. You can have needs without shame. You cannot know someone's emotional state and be okay with that. You've stopped fighting the old pattern, and therefore it stopped controlling you. You've integrated the wound, and therefore it no longer defines you. You've become your own mother, and therefore you've stopped desperately seeking her in others. This is what we call in-depth psychology, the individuated self. Not perfect, not without struggles, but whole, integrated, sovereign, able to hold both light and shadow, both strength and vulnerability, both giving and receiving. And from this wholeness, you step into an ancient role, the role of the wounded healer. But hear me clearly, the wounded healer is not someone who heals from woundedness. That's the old pattern. That's the empath who is still unconsciously trying to fix the mother through others. The wounded healer is someone who has descended into their wound, faced it, integrated it, and emerged transformed. Someone who has walked through the underworld and returned with wisdom. Someone who can sit with others' pain because they've sat with their own. Someone who can hold space for transformation because they've undergone their own. You become a mirror, not by trying to help, not by absorbing, not by fixing, but simply by being whole. Your presence becomes the medicine. Because when people encounter someone who is genuinely comfortable in their own skin, who has integrated their shadow, who loves fully while maintaining sovereignty, something in them remembers that this is possible. This is your gift to the world. Not your empathic absorption, not your endless caretaking, but your wholeness, your integration, your living example of what it means to be both deeply sensitive and profoundly sovereign. You don't have to tell people how to heal. You don't have to teach or preach or rescue. You simply have to be, to embody what you've learned, to live from the truth you've integrated. And in doing so, you break the chain. The mother wound that has been passed down through generations, the pattern of empathic wounding and unconscious absorption ends with you. Your children, if you have them, will not carry this wound. Or if they do encounter wounding, they will have a different template, a different possibility modeled by you. You have done what the depth tradition of Carl Jung empath and personal development points toward you. You have made the unconscious conscious. You have integrated what was split. You have transformed the lead of wounding into the gold of wisdom. This is the alchemical transformation. This is the sacred work. This is the purpose of the wound, not to destroy you, but to initiate you into your true power. Now I want to speak to you directly, person to person, soul to soul. If you've stayed with me through this entire journey, through this descent into the mother wound and the path of integration, I know something about you. I know you've been carrying this for a long time. I know you've been exhausted by your sensitivity. I know you've wondered if something is wrong with you. I know you've given so much, felt so much, carried so much. And I want you to know there is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not cursed with sensitivity. You are someone who adapted brilliantly to a difficult situation in childhood. You developed empathy not as a gift, but as survival. And that was wise. That was necessary. That kept you alive. But you don't need that adaptation anymore. You are not that child anymore. You are an adult with choices, with power, with the capacity to provide for yourself what you once desperately needed from others. The mother you've been seeking exists within you. The safety you've been craving can be created by you. The love you've been trying to earn is already here, waiting for you to give it to yourself. You do not have to keep absorbing others' pain. You do not have to keep losing yourself in relationships. You do not have to keep proving your worth through empathic service. You can choose differently. Starting right now, in this moment, you can place your hand on your heart and say, I am here. I matter. My existence alone is enough. I am learning to mother myself. I am learning to set boundaries. I am learning that love does not mean losing myself. And as you do this, as you commit to this path of integration and sovereignty, your life will change. Not all at once, not without challenges, but steadily, surely, you will feel the shift. From overwhelm to discernment, from absorption to witnessing, from compulsive giving to conscious choosing, from seeking mother to being mother to yourself, from wounded empath to sovereign seer. This is the transformation. This is the promise. This is the wisdom that emerges when the mother wound is finally courageously, lovingly integrated. The mother wound shaped you. It influenced your path. It created your sensitivity. But it does not define you. You are not the abandoned child. You are not the emotional sponge. You are not the endless caretaker. You are the sovereign soul who has walked through fire and emerged not burned, but refined. You are the one who has descended into the underworld and returned with treasure. You are the wounded healer who can now hold space not from woundedness, but from wholeness. The wound was never the end of your story. It was the beginning of your becoming. And now, you are free. Free to feel without drowning. Free to love without losing yourself. Free to be empathic and boundaried sensitive and strong, open-hearted and sovereign. This is who you always were, beneath the wound. Welcome home. If this message reached something deep within you, something that has been waiting to be named and honored and integrated, I invite you to share this with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below, sharing one insight that shifted something in you. Your words might be exactly what another soul needs today. Subscribe to this channel for more journeys into the depths of the psyche, where wounds become wisdom and shadows become light. Because this sacred work of transformation, is not done alone. We do it together, witnessing each other, holding space for each other, reminding each other of what's possible. Until we meet again, remember this: you are not here to carry the world. You are here to be whole, and that is more than enough.